Alright, let's talk about Oliver Goldsmith, one of the warmest, wittiest and most versatile figures of the 18th century. Goldsmith was the son of an Anglo-Irish clergyman that's often asked in exam, and he studied at Trinity College, Dublin, where he very nearly got expelled for joining what was called the Black Dog Riot. He later wandered through Europe as a kind of scholar-traveler and eventually settled in London, trying his hand at journalism, poetry, novels, and plays almost everything, really. He wrote regularly for Ralph Griffiths' Monthly Review, and his essays were later collected as The Citizen of the World, or Letters from a Chinese Philosopher, published in 1762. In those essays, Goldsmith adopts the voice of Lian Qi, a Chinese traveler observing English manners, and yes, both the title and the persona have been asked in exam. The essays are witty, ironic, and gently satirical, showing English society through the eyes of an outsider. He also wrote an inquiry into the present state of polite learning in Europe, a thoughtful prose piece about the decline of true scholarship and the rise of commercialized writing, a topic that still feels familiar today. But of course, his real fame came from his novel The Vicar of Wakefield, published in 1766 with the help of Samuel Johnson, who sold the manuscript to a publisher to get Goldsmith out of debt. That detail, Johnson helping him, has been directly asked in exam. The novel tells the story of Dr. Primrose, a country clergyman whose faith and family are tested by misfortune. Inside the book, you'll also find Goldsmith's famous little poem, Elegy on the Death of a Mad Dog, which has been repeatedly asked in exam. Goldsmith's poetic reputation was cemented with The Traveller in 1764, a philosophical poem written in the heroic couplet, very much in the Augustan style. Then came The Deserted Village in 1770, a pastoral elegy that mourns the destruction of rural life by greed, enclosure, and economic change. The poem's central image is the village of Auburn, loveliest village of the plain. Every line aches with nostalgia for simplicity and community, a theme that anticipates early Romanticism. And if you've seen exam questions comparing The Deserted Village with George Crabbe's The Village of 1783, remember that Crabbe's version is far bleaker. Goldsmith also conquered the stage with She Stoops to Conquer in 1773, a sparkling comedy of manners that pokes fun at the sentimental dramas of his time. It remains one of the most performed Restoration-style comedies even today. He moved in remarkable company too, a member of the club, founded by Samuel Johnson and the painter Joshua Reynolds. Johnson admired him deeply and once said, Goldsmith was a man who left scarcely any kind of writing untouched and touched nothing that he did not adorn. That line, by the way, has also been asked in exam. Sadly, Goldsmith died young in 1774 at just 43. He is buried in London's Temple Church, but his works, from The Vicar of Wakefield to The Deserted Village, still shined with humor, sympathy, and moral warmth. So when you think of Goldsmith, remember wit with heart, satire with compassion, and a style that bridges the age of Johnson and the coming world of Romanticism. All right, let's talk about The Vicar of Wakefield, Oliver Goldsmith's most famous novel and one of the best-known portraits of village life in 18th century English fiction. The story was published in 2 volumes in 1766, and that detail has been asked in exam, and it's narrated by Dr. Charles Primrose, the vicar himself, a kind-hearted, moral man who lives a peaceful country life with his wife and 6 children. At the beginning, everything seems perfect. Dr. Primrose is comfortably wealthy through an inheritance, and he even gives away his annual salary to help orphans and veterans. But things quickly change. His eldest son, George, is about to be married when the vicar suddenly loses all his money. That exact twist has been asked in exam. The wedding collapses, and the family is forced to move to a much smaller parish owned by Squire Thornhill, a local landlord with a charming manner and a terrible reputation. Now, here's where the novel's drama unfolds. Squire Thornhill's uncle, Sir William Thornhill, is known for his virtue and generosity, but the squire himself is a notorious womanizer. One day, a stranger named Mr. Burchell rescues the vicar's daughter, Sophia, and she quietly begins to fall in love with him, though her mother, Mrs. Primrose, disapproves. Soon, Squire Thornhill begins visiting more often, flattering Mrs. Primrose and paying dangerous attention to Olivia, the other daughter. Despite warnings, Olivia is drawn in by his false charm. One night, she elopes, and everyone suspects poor Mr. Burchell. But later, Dr. Primrose discovers the truth. It was Squire Thornhill who deceived Olivia with a fake marriage, and that discovery has been directly asked in exam. The family returns home only for tragedy to strike again. Their house burns down. They lose everything, and instead of showing mercy, the squire demands rent. When Dr. Primrose refuses to pay, he is thrown into prison. While he languishes there, more terrible news arrives. Olivia is said to be dead, Sophia is kidnapped, and George has been arrested after fighting a duel with Thornhill. Just when everything seems hopeless, Mr. Burchell reappears, and suddenly the story turns. He reveals that Olivia is alive, Sophia has been rescued, and the mysterious Burchell is actually Sir William Thornhill in disguise. That's the big reveal students must remember. Sir William exposes his nephew's cruelty and restores justice. In the joyful ending, George finally marries his fiancée Arabella, while Sir William marries Sophia, a happy double wedding. And in one final twist, the squire's own servant tricks him into signing papers that make his marriage to Olivia legally binding, so even his deceit backfires. In the end, Dr. Primrose's faith and patience are rewarded. His wealth is restored when the lost merchant who held his money is found. So what makes the Vicar of Wakefield special? It's a sentimental yet realistic portrait of 18th century family life full of moral lessons, humor, and quiet dignity. Goldsmith mixes tragedy and comedy with a gentle tone, showing that goodness can survive hardship. And if you're revising for exam, remember these key cues. Narrated by Dr. Charles Primrose, published in 2 volumes, 1766, Olivia's elopement with Squire Thornhill, Mr. Burchell revealed as Sir William Thornhill, double marriage ending, restoration of the vicar's fortune. It's not just a story about misfortune and faith, it's Goldsmith's moral vision of resilience, forgiveness, and the quiet heroism of ordinary people. Alright, let's talk about one of the brightest comedies of the 18th century, Oliver Goldsmith's She Stoops to Conquer, first performed in 1773. This play has been a favorite for study in English literature and theatre classes all over the world. And yes, that fact itself has been asked in exam. Interestingly, the play's original title was Mistakes of a Night. And that's a clever hint because all the confusion and comedy in the story unfold in just one single night. That subtitle Mistakes of a Night has also appeared in exam questions. Now, here's the setup. The story centers around the Hardcastle family. Mr. Hardcastle wants his daughter, Kate Hardcastle, to marry the polite young gentleman, Charles Marlowe. Remember both names? They're key exam characters. But there's a problem. Marlowe is confident and lively with lower class women, yet completely tongue-tied and awkward around ladies of his own rank. When Marlowe and his friend George Hastings set out to meet the Hardcastles, they stop at a tavern run by Tony Lumpkin, Mrs. Hardcastle's mischievous son. Tony plays a prank and tells them that Mr. Hardcastle's country house is actually an inn. That single trick drives the entire comedy, and yes, this scene of mistaken identity has been asked in exam. So, Marlowe and Hastings arrive, treating Mr. Hardcastle like an innkeeper, ordering him around while the old man grows increasingly furious. Meanwhile, Mrs. Hardcastle, who's quite eccentric, has her own plans. She wants Tony to marry Constance Neville, her niece. But Constance is in love with Hastings, not Tony. Now, here's where the title comes to life. She stoops to conquer. Kate Hardcastle decides to stoop, that is, lower herself in social appearance by pretending to be a barmaid. In that disguise, she manages to win Marlowe's heart, since he can finally talk freely to her as he would to a common woman. By the end of this long, hilarious night, all the mix-ups are cleared. Tony frees himself from his mother's schemes, allowing Constance and Hastings to marry. Kate reveals her true identity, and Marlowe, realizing his mistake, admits his love. There's even a fun bit of trivia 5 years later. In 1778, playwright John O'Keeffe wrote a loose sequel called Tony Lumpkin in Town. That too has been noted in exile. She Stoops to Conquer was Goldsmith's brilliant response to the overly sentimental comedies of his time. It brought laughter and mischief back to the English stage. The play sparkles with wit, class satire, and the theme of love finding its way through confusion. 2. So remember the key exam takeaways. Original title, Mistakes of a Night. Events take place over one night. Heroine, Kate Hardcastle, who stoops to conquer. Trickster, Tony Lumpkin, Marlowe's nervousness with upper-class women. Written by Oliver Goldsmith in 1773, followed by Tony Lumpkin in Town in 1778. And that's how Goldsmith gave us one of the funniest, most enduring comedies in English literature, a play that, even centuries later, still makes audiences laugh at love, pride, and a few well-timed mistakes.